Hi guys, and welcome back to my podcast. We are in a completely different environment. Funnily enough, the topic of conversation today is going to be change because I have been going through a lot of change, and I think actually a lot of us have. I've been speaking to my friends and I feel like it's just that season of life. You know, the seasons are literally, I don't know what just happened. The seasons are literally changing. And I think when that happens, the vibe seems to change too. And, you go through changes and all these kinds of things. And I feel like these last couple of months, I feel like I've been going through a lot of internal changes and also external changes, i.e. being I moved apartment. I had that's a whole other story. I might save that for another day. But yeah, this was definitely a physical change, just a new environment, getting used to it, blah, 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 blah. But I also feel like internally, I had a little period where I kind of was avoiding. I think I was kind of floating. I feel like I had a lot of things going on in my head and I couldn't really put them into categories. And I think I had a bit of a period where I was a bit on autopilot. And I think during that period, I actually kind of avoided getting on and talking to you guys because I don't want to talk to just talk. I think I really enjoy speaking to you guys when I really have something to say. And like my podcast is really a passion project. It's not the moneymaker. It is really like from my heart to you guys. And I never want to lose that. But I also know like I don't want to speak to just speak, And so I feel like I kind of also, there was just a lot of noise around me, I think when you step into this world of social media and then you get to a point where the hate starts coming in, it's a whole different level of having to kind of reassure yourself that you are not this person that people keep or telling you are, or pointing out things that you don't like about yourself and then actually just getting really, really insecure about them. And I mean, social media has such an evil side, and I get disgusting DMs all the time. And a lot of the times I really don't let it get to me because I have such an amazing network of people. And not only that, but I have an amazing audience. And like, you guys are so sweet. I have 10 times more love than I ever do hate. But it is interesting how we'll kind of cling on to the hate because it just hits you where it's deep, And I think I had a little stretch during the summer where I was just getting it back to back to back. And I think it was the first time I've ever experienced it kind of coming full force. And it really freaked me out. I'm not going to lie to you. It really, really freaked me out. And it really made me question, is this worth even doing? And is it worth me being an influencer when it just comes with such a headache sometimes, And I really kind of just took a little break. And then I realized why these YouTubers and influencers and TikTokers and blah, 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 I realized why some of them get to the point where they just stop because sometimes it just gets too much. And I see it on some of my influencer friends or their videos, like mean people just commenting and pointing out things that about their appearance or the way they speak or blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, oh my God, it will never stop. Like cyberbullying has always been a thing, even from when we were at school. And it's just such a sad reality that this is out there. Anyway, this is now a tangent because it really is a whole different topic. But I definitely felt a change in terms of the kind of environment that I'm getting myself into. And that definitely made me feel a type of way. And not only that, but I kept hearing that once I turned 25, I'm going to go through a second puberty. And I honestly thought people were just taking the piss. But guys, like, I really feel like I have gone through a second puberty because my body is not the same as it was at the beginning of this year. I just feel like my body is becoming more womanly and I don't know how to feel about it. I feel like I'm storing fat in places I wasn't normally storing fat. Like my boobs hurt so much more before I'm about to get my period. I kind of swell up. I feel like my hips have gotten a little wider, which I am not mad about, but I feel like my body is just becoming more womanly, and maybe this is the second period everyone was telling, not period, the second puberty everyone was telling me about. I'm not mad about it. I'm not stressed out about it. I feel like I've come a really long way in terms of my body confidence and how I treat my body, but it definitely has felt like a change. I can't lie to you. Like, it's been a long time since none of my clothes fit me, and right now none of my clothes fit me. But it's weird because they fit me in different places, but they don't fit me in the places they used to fit me. It's so bizarre. I don't know if any of you girls can relate, but maybe this is the second puberty I'm going through. And I don't think it's anything to get fearful of or fazed by, because I do know the time that I am carrying a baby in my body, my body will definitely be changing. So I'll have a whole new set of everything then. So I'm not going to get too stressed out about it, but it's definitely something I noticed, and I think it's kind of interesting. Other big changes, like my best friend left London, she moved back home. That definitely affected me, because one, I feel like I have a limb missing when she's not around, because I see her so much. But two, it's just like a real timestamp of like, wow, you know, we're at the phase. I mean, I'm at the phase and my friends are at the phase, because we're kind of at that age where, you know, you start moving away, or maybe you're on the cusp of getting married, or kind of, I don't know, traveling to this place, starting a job here, and like life is really changing. It's not the good old days that we all talk about anymore. We're creating new good old days, but it's different because in my kind of circle in life, we're all really growing up. And I said to the girls the other day, I was like, wow, there's really going to be a time where we're all going to be with our husbands and we're all going to be living in different places, and Thursday night pizza night is not going to be a thing, you know, and that sucks, but it's life and change happens. Today's topic, I really want to talk about what do we do when life shifts in ways we can't control, because I realized over this last summer, I'm fine with change, but not when it's not in my hands. And I think I'm far more of a control freak than I let on. And I have to kind of sit myself down and say, okay, wow, you really are a control freak, and you really love to micromanage, and you love to micro control. And where does that come from? Like, why do you feel so unsafe when clarity is not in your hands sometimes? Sometimes it's a two-way street. Like, where is that coming from? I think more so with women. Women tend to crave routine and consistency a lot more than men do, because our brain just craves it. We like routine, we like stability, we like comfort, consistency. It kind of all ties in together. Sometimes the fear of the unknown feels worse than the reality itself. And I think a big thing that I always try to think about is, because if you focus on the fear of the unknown so much, you can start to build a lot of anxiety, but you really have to shift. Like, the fear of the unknown can't be fear. It actually should just be excitement, because so many times in life, things will actually turn out so much better than you could have ever dreamed. And I've lived that a million times. So I always have to check myself, being like, you don't have to be fearful about what's to come, because it might just turn out so much better than you would ever even think about, you know? And I think it's a really important mentality shift to have, because I think when you're in fear, you tend to attract things you should be fearful of. It's just kind of how the cookie crumbles, and it's not good to live in that kind of fear, because fear is such a low vibrational emotion, and I don't want to be all woo-woo on you, but it really is a low vibration to hold within your body. It's not a healthy, I'm not going to say it's not a healthy emotion, but it's not a valuable emotion. You know, anger is far more valuable than fear, because at least anger, it's like, it's not a byproduct of other emotions. Anger is just like, I'm fucking angry right now. Whereas like fear tends to be a byproduct of a lot of things, and it ties in with anxiety, insecurity, all these kinds of things. But when change isn't in your hands, I think it's very important to acknowledge your feelings, because I think sometimes you have to grieve what was. And I know that sounds really dramatic, but sometimes you really have to grieve what was. Like, even if what was just a simple routine, or like, for example, me, Moza, living in the same place as me and having that kind of comfort in the rock there, you know, you have to take time to grieve that, because that's a chapter that's closed. That's a chapter that's no longer my present, right? And this kind of mentality towards that spills into so many things, whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship. Sometimes you just have to feel and grieve for the old ways, then really separate what's in your control and what isn't in your control. What can you actually do about the current situation? If you can do something about it, go for it. And if you can't, you kind of just have to surrender and move on. And it's hard. It's not easy. I don't have the magic recipe to do that. I wish I did, but all these kinds of things are so much easier said than done. And whenever I think about times that I've just had to let go, it's so random, but like I will literally just wake up one morning and I let go. When you try to let go too much, you're actually just holding on to everything. So I think you just gotta ride the wave, you know? I think a huge mindset shift that comes into these things when change happens, and sometimes if it's bad change and it really hits you, we can sometimes fall into the why me, the victim complex. But I think it's so powerful to always ask yourself, like, what is this teaching me? What is this teaching me? And I think I learned that a long time ago when I was kind of for the first time dating guys or blah, 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 blah. And I was very reactive at one point. Or even when you just meet a person and like instinctively you're like, no, I don't like you. It's so interesting because normally that's saying something about you versus them. Like normally we're all just mirroring each other. So if you meet a person and you're like, I don't like you, sometimes it's good to ask yourself, like, what is this person kind of shining a spotlight on in terms of me? Because there might be a reason, there might be a mirroring situation where they're kind of, they're shining a light on something you lack and that instinctively feels bad to you. So it's always interesting to just say, what is this teaching me? And obviously I've spoken about this before, but magic happens when you're most uncomfortable. So sometimes change and sudden change can feel very, very uncomfortable, but there are some happy benefits to change. And that is growth happens in discomfort. It just does. Like the only way to go through it is to go through it. And when you do, you'll realize you've learned some things along the way and you've kind of just grown an extra layer of skin and you just get stronger and better and wiser. And a lot of the times hotter as well, I've noticed, when you go through that. So growth really happens when you're the most uncomfortable. And change often clears space for something better. I don't know how to explain it and I don't know what the law is about this, but whenever change happens, I feel like you do make space for more new things to come. I think that's also a manifestation technique if I'm not mistaken. But there was this book that I read called E Squared. And long story short, this girl really wanted this car. She got her finances in order, but this deal just kept falling through and she was trying so hard, but she couldn't get the car. And then she actually looked in her garage one day and said, oh my God, I don't even have space for the car. Even if I had the car, I have nowhere to put it because she had boxes and clothes and so much shit in her garage. She spent the whole weekend clearing out her garage, changing, making a room. That following Monday, she got the car because she made the space for it to come. And oftentimes, change means you can make space for more and make space for new. And that is definitely a happy benefit to change. Adapting builds resilience. And I think this is so important, especially in our world that we're living in where everything is changing every single day. When you can learn to adapt to things, that really, really helps you build resilience. Every time you adapt, your kind of confidence in facing the unknown gets a lot stronger. Change sometimes forces you to see life differently. And this kind of goes back to growing the most when you're uncomfortable. Sometimes you're forced to really see life and situations differently and from a different perspective. And I think that's an amazing thing. I'm not hating on closed-minded people because I do quite admire people that are just so set in their ways and have just such a strong belief system. But I'm definitely more of an open-minded person. And I think with my open-mindedness, I do welcome in different perspectives and I'm genuinely curious to understand different perspectives. And I think it does me more good than bad. So I do think if you're open-minded and you can kind of allow yourself to see fresh perspectives, it will be very beneficial for you. And I think something that I have learned is it's fun to be a curious person. Instead of change being seen as a threat, I feel like I definitely used to feel that way because of my abandonment issues. But now it's kind of like, instead of seeing change as a threat, you can kind of see it as a little experiment. Like, what am I going to learn? What am I going to take from this? How good is it going to be? Like, what is life going to bring me? And I think also the most important thing is to have faith, whether you believe in God or the universe or energy, or maybe you don't believe in any of it and you just believe in yourself. Faith is such an important thing. To know and have faith in yourself, in God, whatever your belief system may be. It is the most reassuring, comforting thing that you could ever do. And I really, really believe, like in my life anyways, prioritizing God and having faith in God is the reason why I have remained cool, calm, and collected during some of the really stormy periods in my life where I literally don't know where to stand. But that brings me to one of my favorite quotes. I've definitely said this. I might have just said this in every single episode I've ever made. But when you don't know where to stand, stand anywhere. And it's really, really true, especially when you're going through a lot of change. Sometimes you really don't know where to stand. So you just have to stand anywhere. And grab a nice little matcha whilst you're at it. A little closing thought just to help you navigate if you're kind of going through a bit of a rocky season and a lot of changes happening. Instead of these things happening to you, they may actually be happening for you. And I think if you can believe that within yourself, you are going to go miles shooting through the change. So yeah, guys, that was my little takes on change, because change comes and sometimes it can feel very overwhelming and a bit stressy. But you have to breathe and kind of just dissect it a little bit and understand what you can do, what you can't do about it, and just go from there and ride the waves of life. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I will see you guys in my next episode.